has been the host to many barns who have reformed, but none with the excitement and anticipation of tonight and the Libertines. I'm in front of the main stage. Huge crowd is here waiting for Carl and Pete to be reunited on this very stage. But before they get on stage, let's remind ourselves why the Libertines made such a lasting impression.
In 1997, Pete Doherty and Carl Barrett met in London with a mutual desire to write songs and make a band. They discovered bassist John Hassell and drummer Gary Powell, and together they would go on to form one of the most important and influential bands of their generation, the Libertines. But the Libertines were never going to be about the band, but about one partnership. The partnership between Barrett and Doherty. A partnership that over time demonstrated the genius, beauty and destructiveness that is rock and roll. At first, the partnership blossomed, with Doherty and Barrett forming an understanding that would produce results to define an era. Although their mainstream success was initially limited, a dedicated fan base was building, which the band became undeniably close to. Their cult status continued to grow as guerrilla gigs were thrown in their London flat. And by November 2002, the whole of Britain was ready to stop and listen.
The Libertines!
Shadow man on the balance road. The pain in your interest, so I was so bold.
On top of the pops at last, it's the Libertines.
You see the stylish, with the riots, shoveled up like monster, the night on power.
But almost as quickly as this musical force grew, the special partnership began to break down. In June 2003, Doherty didn't turn up for a European tour and then caused even more chaos when he broke into Barrett's flat and was sentenced to 6 months in prison. The end of the Libertines was near.
But how did you go from that to needing a bouncer to keep you apart? You each had your own minder.
Yeah,
to keep you from doing damage to each other?
It wasn't like all of a sudden we were fighting, you know. In the past, long before we'd had any attention from anyone but ourselves, in the midst of a drunken creative session, come the morning, we wouldn't be able to quite remember who wrote what line. So we'd come to blows quite often over that, over who wrote what. And because I'd be so sure if I'd written something, but he would as well. What can you do but fight or walk away?
The Libertines broke up. It was for personal reasons more than music. You know, it was just thundering out of control, and it was going to destroy itself and ruin the legacy it made. You know, these things have to come to an end, and it ended at the best time it possibly could.
And by 2006, things had gotten a whole lot worse.
You can't avoid knowing what happened to Pete Doherty after the collapse of the Libertines. Kate Moss, Baby Shambles and drugs.
Baby Shambles released their first album to muted critical acclaim, but it was all overshadowed by more trouble with drugs and then freefall.
Pete Doherty has been sentenced to a 12-month community order after admitting a series of drug offences.
Barrett, meanwhile, was not prepared to sit around and wait for Pete to sort his act out.
Last time Carl Barrett was here was with the Libertines, but now he's with his very own Dirty Pretty Things.
Bang, bang, you're dead. Oh, so easily dead. Bang, bang, you're dead.
With Barrett and Doherty now both firmly apart, the future looked bleak for Libertines fans.
Is it cruel or kind not to speak my mind and to lie to you rather than hurt you?
Years of rumours and speculation followed as fans and band members toyed with the idea of a reunion. But on the 29th of March 2010, the speculation ended as it was announced the Libertines were to reform for the Reading and Leeds Festivals 2010. And so we turn full circle. Whatever happens, this will surely be a weekend to remember. And once again, the spotlight falls on the boys in the band, Pete Doherty and Carl Barrett.